For the last 3 months, I've been very out of the loop when it comes to OSRS updates. Usually I try to stay on top of them, but I've just come back after 3 months of focusing on another game and making a series on it. But I'm back to OSRS now full time, and I've already posted my first group Ironman video in a couple months. As you probably know, the game can change a lot every week, and after 3 months, I can only imagine there's been a lot of quality of life stuff added and plenty of tweaks to the game that I've missed out on because I haven't really been reading the weekly game updates. That's really the whole point of this series though, this playlist of game update videos I've made. I try to go over the game updates whenever there's something worth talking about. I like to go in depth with those things and talk about how certain changes can affect different types of accounts or different types of play styles. I may not go as in depth as I normally do though, because there's going to be a lot to cover since I'll be going over the last 3 months of updates. I really want to do this because making these videos helps me to comprehend the updates better, and because I know it's hard for a lot of other people to keep up with what's happening with OSRS. You know, for most people it's not their job like it is for me, but even for me, it can still be hard to keep up with it sometimes. So hopefully this video will help myself and you get caught up with the last 3 months of OSRS updates. This one was the last video I made in the series, which was February 12th. So that's the update where we're going to be picking up from whatever update came right after this. The last video was 1 week after Royal Titans came out, so next one is going to be 2 weeks after Royal Titans came out, and this is Royal Titans combat achievements being released, and that's the majority of it. I just read through this. That's really all there is to say. The 12th birthday event is over now, but it was pretty crazy how easy it was. You would go to the Fowler party room, you talk to this guy, go through a few dialogue messages, and that's it. Then it's over. You just talk to him and you get the reward. It's so funny, people complain that they want Jagex to not put as much time into holiday events and rather put time into actual content updates. And then when we have an update like this where the holiday event is just talking to someone and it's like the very bare minimum they could possibly do, then people complain the event was too easy and that there's not enough. It really goes to show that you truly can't please everyone. Going back up to the list, next we have February 26th, 2025 Game Jam POH improvements. Normally in these videos, I don't typically just read the changelog, I actually go through the whole update post, but in this case, for this video, I am very thankful for these changelogs because I'm just going to be going through the changelogs. The main focus of this post is quality of life improvements to the POH. First thing is that mounted heads can now be switched out and upgraded without removing the entire display. We're in my POH in building mode, and I have the KQ head mounted that I had to do for the Desert Diary a long time ago, and there's an option here I don't think was here before, trophies. Oh, that's cool. Do I even have to be in building mode for this? Let me turn that off and see if we could still right-click trophies. Oh yeah, it's still there. There's different tiers of the head trophy space that I don't believe existed before. Like you can click on any of these and it says that this was added February 27th, 2025. Because I think before you just choose the head to mount on the wall, but now there's different tiers that will allow you to build different types of heads on there. You need 38 construction to build the teak one. The mahogany one requires 58 construction, and the highest tier one gilded requires 78 construction. I guess it already put me as the highest tier one because I had the KQ head mounted, which is the gilded display. You get a little bit of experience for mounting the heads, and it looks like for the Vork and Hydra head, there's an even higher construction requirement than just the gilded one. You need 82 to be able to mount those. But let's try mounting another head in the POH. I have the alchemical Hydra heads. It's going to cost 50k GP, so let's make this into the stuff heads, which you can then mount in the POH. Oh, there's an option to unstuff. Is that always there? Now we're back at the head trophy space. Let's check the trophies and then mount. I have to be in building mode. When you mount it, you do get the XP, but you can choose to decline the XP if you're like a pure, for example. You don't want to get defense XP. But once you mount it, you can then freely swap between the two. So this is a completionist thing now to eventually get all the heads built in the POH, or to unlock the ability to freely swap between them. I know that was kind of a lot for one bullet point, but on to the next one. There's now new house styles for Canifis and Civitas. We're at the estate agent. Let's redecorate, and you can see Canifis is 10k, the Civitas theme is 35k, but it does not say what level requirement. But we can check the trusty old wiki to see that Canifis requires 60 construction, Civitas is level 70, and this is what they look like. Of course, the top one is the Canifis one, and this is the Civitas one. Expanded room capacity. You'll now get up to 4 more rooms than before. And I was taking a look on the wiki to see how many rooms that means now. It looks like, assuming this has been updated, which it probably has at this point, Max number of rooms at 99 construction is 38. The POH bookcase is now alphabetized and fits onto a single menu page. I really wanted to see what this looks like, but I don't think, or I couldn't find at least a bookcase in my POH, so I'm gonna build one now and let's take a look. Search the bookcase. Oh, this is so much better than it was before. Whenever you read a book anywhere in the game, it will then show up in your bookcase in your POH that you can grab out anytime. And while it may not seem like that big of a deal because how often do you need a specific book, there are a few books that come in handy. I mean, right away I could see the Book of Piracy, but the book that came to mind for me immediately was Tarn's Diary. You use Tarn's Diary to turn a salve amulet into a salve amulet E, and rather than committing a bank slot to this, people usually just drop it when they're done using it, and this way it'll be a little bit faster to find in the bookcase. That's it for the noteworthy POH changes. Going down here, the next important thing is in the other changes section. They added a revert option for Emberlight, Purging Staff, and Scorching Bow, so you can now turn any of those back into a synapse. However, that will delete any charges or infusion that you have on them. I'm not going to actually do it myself, of course, because I don't want to lose the charges, but there should be a warning message, right? If I click that. Yeah, so you get that warning message. This could be nice for group Ironman because once you have one of the synapse items, if you want to give it to your teammate, you can then revert it back to a synapse to do that, but it may probably not be worth it because of how annoying it is to get all the charges needed. Last thing I want to mention from this news post, this is in regards to TOA in the monkey room. You'll now have 1 tick to walk away before being venomed if you accidentally walk into a cursed baboon. And that's it, so let's go back to the news posts. That is the last one in February, so on to March. We're gonna have to scroll down here to get to the first news post from March. You may notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 posts from March 1st. That is because this is from RuneFest. They did a summit at RuneFest and they were posting all these blogs on the same day. I'm not going to talk too much about this stuff because this is all announcements for the future, but I want this video to be focused on what is in the game now, what has already changed in the game, not stuff that may come in the future that's probably going to be changed before it even gets released. But there is one thing I want to talk about, which is Project Xanaris, RuneFest updates. As some of you may know, I've been very interested in the Lost City project over the last couple months. And if you didn't know as well, it's an open source project completely unaffiliated with Jagex or any other project. It's a passion project that anyone can contribute to, and their goal is to recreate and preserve every lost version of RuneScape starting from the release of RuneScape 2. Jagex did not start keeping backups of RuneScape until 2012, which means theoretically Lost City wants to recreate every version of RuneScape that existed between 2004 and 2012. It's a decades-long goal that has already had tens of thousands of cumulative hours put into it by countless developers, contributors, and testers. The reason I mention this is to clear up a common misconception that people think this is a competitor to Project Xanaris. Lost City is about recreating what Jagex doesn't have, because it was only by pure luck that Jagex found the August 2007 backup that OSRS came from. Other than that, it's all been lost to time, everything before 2012. I'm just saying it would be very cool if Jagex were to someday work with Lost City to somehow integrate the functionality of time-based restrictions in terms of different years or versions of the game into Project Xanaris so that people could experience those very early years in some official capacity. Yeah, I was about to go very off topic and go on a whole different tangent that could be its own separate video talking about official August 2007 preservation servers, but we'll save that for a separate video. Right here though, next news post, March 4th, 2025, Jagex has a new CEO, now Mod North. The previous CEO, Mod Pips, is stepping down after 14 years at Jagex. I think the important thing that the average player will want to know about Mod North is that he has been playing RuneScape for over 20 years, he's maxed in RS3, and has nearly maxed in OSRS. This transition does not signal a change in monetization strategy, game direction, or how we engage with the community. I think everyone at Jagex is very well aware that microtransactions would not fare well for old school RuneScape. Obviously not in the long term, and probably not even in the short term. There's this video that Jagex posted, which I'll link in the description, of Mod Pips handing over the metaphorical torch to Mod North, and we'll play a clip of that real quick.
I've been incredibly proud of how far Old School has come as a player voting in polls for the last 8 years or so, for better or worse. What's made this game extraordinary for so long is, in my opinion, the interaction between the team and the players. It really is a game built for the players, by the players, and with community at the front and center of everything we do. By staying true to these values going forwards, I absolutely believe that the golden years of old school RuneScape are still ahead of us.
Next up, we have March 5th, 2025, Game Jam Charges Quality of Life. Let's open up the change log. You can now work towards the Blessed Dishonest Quiver or the Corrupted Enhanced Crystal Weapons by using them, and when you use up the charges, you'll still be working towards the blessed or corrupt version of those. Just like how it currently works with the Arclight building up the charges to turn into the Emberlight, you now don't have to worry about using, I guess you could call it the degradable-ish version of these weapons, because you're now still going to be working towards getting the better version of them. You don't have to feel bad anymore if you don't want to grind out all the splinters or all the crystal shards before you start using either of these. And the other thing here is there's a new toggleable feature. You can now set certain items to withdraw from the bank automatically charged, and you could even set the desired amount of charges applied. When you go to the bank, you're going to go up to the top right, and I think by default this is not checked, so you're going to check this option, Bank Item Options. And now this is how it works. Say for example, we're going to look at the trident. You can do configure charges. Because the cap is 20k, I'm going to set it to 20k. And now every time I withdraw the trident from the bank, it is always going to be at max charges, provided I have the required items to charge it to that amount. As you can see, yeah, you can see in the chat box right there, it just said that it fully filled it up for me. And this works for, I think, anything that has charges, like the Saying, you could see configure charges, Crystal Armor, configure charges, Ring of Suffering has it, the Serpalm has it. There's a lot of things. And the last thing I want to point out from this post is that you can now get the Giant Champion Scroll from Reanimated Giants. Next post is from March 10th. We have the 13th Annual Golden Gnome Awards. They announced the winners in person at RuneFest, which is really cool because it's the first RuneFest since 2019, so all the Golden Gnomes since then have all been virtual. Well, I guess for the vast majority of you watching this video, it was still virtual because it's only a very small percent of players that actually go to RuneFest, but it's still very different vibes when you get to see the video of the actual creator getting up there on stage and accepting the awards. Okay, this is the second page for March, so let's go to the previous March page, which will get us to the next one, March 12th, Permanent Deadman World 45 improvements. Most of you don't play World 45, and it's very convoluted unless you do play. I personally don't care to go over all the stuff, and most of you don't care either. So just know there's been a lot of changes to World 45. In other news, reanimated goblins can now drop the Goblin Champion Scroll. Next, March 14th, on Pi Day, they have an advertisement for U2's figurines for the Wise Old Man and Gnome Child. Next, March 17th, they were talking more about Yama. This has changed and been updated since this news post, and it's still a feature update. It's not technically in the game yet as I'm recording this video. I think it's going to be coming out 1 or 2 days after I upload this video, but the next game update post we have right here, March 19th, clan events improvements. This is a pretty small news post, but for clan events you can now select Muspa, Huey, Amoxliadel, or Royal Titans for events, and they've added a to be confirmed option to give you more flexibility in planning events. For a second, the title of the news post made me think they added those official bingos into the game that they had from the game jam not too long ago, but I don't think that's in the game yet. I forgot that there was even like an events thing. As you can see, my clan has not really done those like since the release of clans really. But if we go to edit mode, then create event, I'm kind of curious how this menu looks because I haven't even really used this before. Oh, this is very cool. I guess this has been in the game for a long time. I've just never messed around with it. The birthday event is over, so you're gonna have to wait till next year to get the rewards if you want them. They changed the PvP arena and the jewelry box interface to be called Emir's Arena. Yeah, there's nothing really important in there. We had the sailing alpha that came out on March 20th. There's nothing related to sailing in the game. I believe it's set to be released this fall, but this was just the alpha so people could try it out. We were also able to try it out at RuneFest. I very briefly tried it, but I didn't spend too much time at it because I was more excited to walk around and talk with people than sit at the computers. Moving on to March 25th, we have behind the scenes 16-bit audio. Currently, all the audio in OSRS is played back at 8-bit, but they're going to be converting it from 8-bit to 16-bit. And they have a few examples. I listened through all these. I'll play a couple of them for you. 16-bit is meant to remove the background white noise. And here, they show the 8-bit and the 16-bit back and forth, so here, see if you could tell the difference. Very noticeable, right? At least for me. Hopefully it picks up well on my recorder. And I want to show this one as well, the crickets. Isn't that so good? Okay, that's all for this news post. We're just talking about a feature update. Next up, oh, this is a big one. Pull 83 quality of life changes, March 26th, 2025. They changed the Slayer Cape perk at Konar so that when it procs and you get the back-to-back task, it will now consider the specific location that you got your last task at. Because, well, as someone who's done a lot of Konar Slayer personally, I know very well that you would not get the same back-to-back location, but now you do. Not to flex too hard or anything, but as someone with the full Dusk Mystic, I don't think I'll be doing much Konar Slayer anytime soon. You can now cast Alchemy by using items on the Explorer's Ring so that you no longer have to wear it or navigate to a dialogue box to alch items using it. This is a very nice change because the main place you'd use the alchs on the Explorer's Ring is when you're barraging like Necreals or Dust Devils, because you're on the Ancient Spellbook. That's why you'd want to use the Explorer's Ring for alching. But after this update, instead of having to worry about navigating over to the alchemy menu and then selecting the item, you can now just straight up use the item on the ring, proceed, and it alchs it. Added a new dialogue option to receive another farming contract at the same tier as the one a player just completed. Unfortunately, my current contract won't be done today, but I do have this clip from like a couple weeks ago sorta showing this. So you complete your contract, you click on Jane, and I think it's 1 spacebar, 2 spacebar, and then this is the menu that comes up. You choose option 3, and that's it. You've got another contract. So I think in total it's just 3 dialogue menus to collect your seed pack and start the next contract. You can now mouse over any fairy ring you have unlocked on the world map to be reminded of its code. I'm pretty sure RuneLite was already doing this, I want to say, but it's nice that Jagex is adding the RuneLite-esque features into the main client so that eventually they will have all the features in their own client and we will not have to worry about third-party clients. Everything can be run by Jagex in 2028 or something. Currently, if you're introducing a friend to OSRS for the first time, wouldn't it be kind of weird to have to explain that like they're playing on a client that's not run by the company, but it's also allowed by the company and promoted by the company? You know, like why don't they just have their own that's just as good? It's kind of weird, right? You can now buy seed packs from Tithe Farm in exchange for Tithe Farm points. They've also updated the Tithe Farm shop interface. This is what it looks like now. And these seed packs are equivalent to tier 3 farming guild contracts. And these have a chance to give you a white lily seed. And that is very, very nice. You can get white lily seeds because the only way you were able to get them before was getting it as a drop from Hispori. It's a 1 out of 16 drop from Hispori, and it takes 32 hours for a Hispori to grow. And the reason why it's nice to have a stockpile of white lily seeds is because there's a farming contract that you can get that requires you to plant a white lily seed or harvest a white lily. And it's only the seed packs from Tithe Farm that have the chance to drop these. The regular seed packs that you get as rewards from farming contracts do not have a chance to drop white lily seeds. I think peak efficiency Tithe Farm is like 110 points per hour, but the average player might get closer to 70 points per hour. These seed packs cost 30 Tithe points, which means you'd be getting around 2 or just over 2 seed packs per hour. Not worth it from an efficiency standpoint, but if you enjoy Tithe Farm, it's a nice perk being able to buy these consumables like the seed pack, herb boxes, grape seeds. Prayer tooltips now shows the base drain rates of all prayers. As you can see, when I hover over one of the prayers, it now says at the bottom of that info box, 1 prayer point per X amount of seconds. So 1 point per 3 seconds for the overheads, or these offensive prayers, 1 point per 1.5 seconds. I don't believe there's a toggle for the drain rate part of the message. If you toggle the prayer tooltips, it just doesn't show anything at all when you hover over it. And personally, I don't know, I feel like I'm just used to having the thing show up when I hover over it, and it'd be weird to not have that. So I'm gonna keep it on. It does have a little extra bit at the bottom. There could be a RuneLite plugin maybe that gets rid of the bottom part of that. These 3 lower-ish level Slayer Masters now assign crab Slayer tasks, which includes Ammonite, Frost, Rock, Sand, and Swamp Crabs, and I assume this is in preparation for the new crab boss that's going to be coming out with Varlamort Part 3. All skill guides now feature a new tab named after the skill that provides an overview of what the skill is and the benefits of leveling it. So if you didn't know what mining does, there's now a section. The default tab is mining, and you could read what the skill does, or the same for any of the other skills. This is a really cool one. From today onwards, whenever you report someone for botting, and it has been reviewed and actioned, you'll receive an inbox message directly in your message center. This is really cool though. It's really rare that I report someone because as an Ironman type of account, I don't really interact with players the same way that main accounts would. Like I don't go to the GE, and a lot of the activities I do are more solo or duo focused with my teammate. But I actually did report a player like a week or two ago. What was I doing? I was doing Wildy Slayer. And there was a bot, or someone I thought was a bot, was really annoying me, so I reported them, which, like I said, I rarely report people, but I reported this person for botting. I wasn't even thinking about this. I just checked right now. I have an unread message in my inbox. I guess it very well could be like a billing message, but I really hope this is something related to the botting because I want to see what it says. I'm so curious. I'm so glad that I did this report because... Oh, it is. Here, let me pull it up. This was from May 7th, so it was from like 4 or 5 days ago. I just never checked that menu. It's my first time checking it in a while right now. But I'm so curious what it's going to say. What if it's just like, no, that wasn't a bot, you're banned for false reporting. Let's see, though. Let's see. Dude, I just made a clip reading out this whole message and talking about it. And then I read right here afterwards at the bottom that says, messages sent to you by Jagex are confidential. The contents of these messages must not be disclosed to any other person or copies taken. So, I guess I'll have to blur this out. It probably doesn't matter, but just to be safe, I'll blur it out. It wasn't a special message or anything. It's probably the same default message that everyone automatically gets sent. But effectively, it said, yes, your report did lead to someone getting temporarily or permanently banned. Keep it up. Bro, I feel like Randall from Recess. You can't be botting. That's against the rules. I'm going to report you. It's one thing if a bot is doing instanced content, like something in the POH, like making teleport tabs, where it doesn't directly affect other players, like you can't see them, they're not taking spots away from you. But it's a whole other thing when they're at an activity that directly affects you, that's taking a spot away from you or taking loot away from you. I mean, you should always report bots when you see them, but I think if someone is directly impacting you in that way and you report them, that does not make you a snitch. They added the ability to loop emotes a few months ago, but it was only for a few of them. That feature has now been added to an additional 45, including some treasure trail item emote enhancers like the flare trousers, sleeping cap, powdered wig, and pantaloons. So if you want to flap forever, you can now be flapping forever, or if you have a special someone at the GE with you, you can now do push-ups, and your E-date can now forever do sit-ups right in front of each other and never stop. Have the 25-minute RuneLite AFK timer on so that everyone else can watch you. For some more changes to the World 45 permanent deadman mode. And then in the other changes section, with this update, if you get logged out, whether on purpose or DC or whatever, if you log out at TOB or TOA with an escape crystal in your inventory, it will now consume the crystal and teleport you outside of the raid on login, which will preserve your hardcore Ironman status. I believe previously, if you were to log in, you would be dead on login, but when you were logged out, I don't think you would be dead. And you'd have to wait for your membership to run out so that the game would force spawn you into free-to-play in Lumbridge. At least, yeah, that's the thing I'm thinking of. It's a very weird and niche mechanic that wouldn't affect too many players, but it's nice that that is solved for the most part now. Next we have Aggie in Drainer Village now has a make all interface for dies, so you no longer have to do one at a time and go through the dialogue. The books in Chambers and TOB will no longer drop once a player has read them. I'm pretty sure they changed that with TOA, or maybe it was like that from TOA from the start. It's been that way for a while at TOA, but they're just now changing it for raids 1 and 2. And that's all the noteworthy stuff for this post. Let's see what's next. March 28th. The Delve Boss rewards, I think this has been changed multiple times since then. This is just talking about the future stuff that will eventually be coming out. March 28th, new U2's plushies. Looks like there's the Sandwich Lady and Grardor. The next, March 31st, this is when they announced RuneScape Dragonwilds, which doesn't even lead to anywhere now. Wait. Okay. That's weird. Okay, well that post isn't working, but it was just when they announced RuneScape Dragonwilds. March 31st, they announced it, and it came out very shortly after they announced it. Let's go into April now. First post of April, we have Pull 83 Castle Wars update on April 2nd. The Castle Wars changes have arrived, and there's a lot of Castle Wars changes, which I'm not going to get into the specifics of everything, but the most important thing to know are these changes to dedicated Castle Wars worlds, which I think that just means the worlds that are classified as Castle Wars on the World Hopper. So in those worlds, you can now only enter through the Guthix portal to ensure more balanced teams. You will now earn one additional ticket for participating in a game. And again, this is only on the dedicated Castle Wars worlds. I guess that's probably to prevent rigging the games. And on members worlds, because Castle Wars is free to play, on the members dedicated Castle Wars worlds, you're now granted plaudits as side tickets, and these plaudits can be used to purchase Castle Wars supply crates. However, shortly after this update, they disabled the crates because they saw a big increase in AFKing rather than actual engagement with the minigame. They said next week we'll be back with a revised approach. So we'll see. We're going to go through the updates. We'll see if they did end up going through with the revised approach, because I don't know what ended up happening with this. And as for the tickets per game, you could see on the Castle Wars worlds versus non-Castle Wars worlds, it is +1 for each of these categories. Besides for the Castle Wars changes from this update, there's a couple other things to go over. Pull 83 rune pouch changes. The rune pouch UI has been upgraded to include the new 1, 5x, and all options for rune withdrawals and deposits. Let's check it out. Here's the rune pouch. We'll open it up, and wow, there's the different options. On to other changes, and I can't believe they nerfed this. You can no longer skip one of the shortcut obstacles in the Fremnik Slayer caves by interacting with a different obstacle. I know there's been at least a couple times where I've recorded myself doing this, and I just spent the last 20 plus minutes trying to find a clip of me doing this, and I could not find one, which is really frustrating because I usually like to pride myself on organizing and naming my clips very well, but I just could not find it, and I'm not going to dedicate any more time. But what you would do before is you would stand right here, click on the second obstacle, and you would wait a few seconds, and it would make you go across. I would have done it by now. But yeah, now you're going to have to click on that one, go across the first obstacle, and then click the second one. But it was weird. You just click the second one, your character would walk into that corner, do nothing for a couple seconds, and then you would jump all the way across. An optional warning has now been added when using items on an explorer's ring to out them. Okay, because I had the warning before, so that wasn't originally there. They added the warning, but you can toggle it off in the settings. This is kind of cool, going through all these updates in one video. It's like I'm playing through the history of the game, even though it's only 2 months of history, but I'm able to see the updates and the changes happening and understand how they were affecting the game. Let's do this, turn that off. Or no, let's turn it on real quick just so you can see there is the warning. This is the message that was added. But now when I turn it off and use it on there, it alks it right away. It's probably better to not have the warning for neck reels, because the neck reels summon those death spawns, and even after you finish off the stack of neck reels, a lot of the time there will still be some death spawns attacking you, which will interrupt your dialogue message if you have the message there. And the Chaos Fanatic's AoE attack will only affect the last player who engaged in combat. And that is going to be it for this news post, the Castle Wars one. April 3rd, behind the scenes of Sailing Volume 4. This is survey results and survey data. April 7th, OSRS X Starforge Systems. It's a PC thing that they're selling here. It looks pretty cool. And next up, here we go, dev blog, pull 84, oh, okay, here we go, pull 84, stackable clues, and more. I'll give you the long story short on this one. So you probably know the way clues work right now is that if you drop a clue scroll, it'll stay on the ground for 1 hour. Well, Jagex was saying that they want to change it so that when you drop a clue, it only stays on the ground for 3 minutes rather than 1 hour. But to make up for it, you'll be able to stack up to 5 clues at once. You'll get scroll boxes like how they were in leagues. So Jagex made an ultimatum saying, we are going to be changing the clue despawn timer back to 3 minutes, how it used to be. But players were not very happy with that. They complained, and Jagex said, okay, we're going to pull it instead of just changing it. And that is the pull that is currently going on. It ends May 13th, which will be, it might be the day this video gets posted, or maybe the day after this video gets posted. I'm not sure yet. But there's only 2 questions on this poll. First question is, should we revert the despawn timer for dropped clues from 1 hour back to 3 minutes? And the second question is, should we add stackable clues via scroll boxes into the game? A lot of players just vote yes to anything without even reading it. Unless they see PvP, then they automatically vote no. So kind of interesting how they did it here, where the yes option is probably the one that most people don't want. I would predict that this is going to fail the poll. It's really weird saying that, because failing the poll is a really rare thing that happens, like I said, unless it's a PvP pull. So it's kind of weird. Like, I think this one will fail the pull, and this one will pass the pull. That's my guess. April 9th, 2025, we got some farming and Autocast quality of life improvements. I love me a good quality of life news post. Gardeners will no longer wander off, and they'll instead remain conveniently stationed at their plots confined to a 3-tile diameter, ready to assist you. And leprechauns are now stationed closer to herb patches, except these two updates were changed very shortly after because of the feedback they received from players. There were two main reasons why players didn't like the new leprechaun positions. The first reason was because the positions weren't as helpful as intended, and the other main reason is because a lot of players are used to doing things a certain way, they have their rhythm down, and they don't like the thing that they're used to being changed. And then players didn't like the gardener change because they felt it took away from the world's liveliness and charm. Then Jagex goes on to explain why they changed these things. It wasn't pulled, which is probably a big reason why players weren't very happy with it. But there is one other quality of life farming change that doesn't say it was reverted. I haven't tried this yet, but it says that using a tree seed on a plant pot will now continue planting similar seeds into more pots until you either run out of pots or seeds. And then same thing with watering those seeds. You will continue to water that same type of unwatered pot. So let's see what I've got in here. Tree seeds. We'll plant some mahoganies. Now what I would do before is I would put it down here and then like spam click back and forth like that to plant them. I imagine it's gonna be slower. Yeah, that is a lot slower than manually clicking back and forth, but you don't have to click as much this way if you want to AFK. And then it should be the same thing with watering. Well, but yeah, before I would like put it down here and then spam click back and forth. But now, once again, you can let it automatically go. It's just gonna be slower than automatically doing it. Or, of course, you could just use humidify for this step. It is so interesting though, coming off from having just played 2004 RuneScape for so long. Almost every single action you do in that game is manual. Like cooking, you can only cook one food at a time. Or smelting bars at the furnace, you can only smelt one bar at a time. You have to use every item back and forth on the thing. Same thing with like spinning flax. You have to use every single piece of flax on the spinning wheel. Making unfinished potions, completing potions, cutting unstrung longbows, stringing bows, all one action at a time. I've spent a lot of time looking through the game updates and looking at the history of the game. And this update from September 27th, 2004, this was a big one. This might have been the first one that started, I'm not completely sure, but one of the first few, if not the very first one, where the AFK-ness of activities became a thing. They added make 5, make 10, and make X right-click options to these following activities, as well as smelting. However, there's no make all, so you have to do make X and then type 999 or type 27 or whatever. But it's very interesting because when they added these make X options, they didn't add it to everything in the game at once. You could see it's just very few activities right here, and they were added in batches over the years. And then there's this update from September 12th, 2005, a whole year later. This is when Cook X was added. And it's so interesting to see that even to this day, they're still adding updates to automate things in the game. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's good to have one option that's faster but more click intensive, or a slower option that's less click intensive. Although in this case, with all these original automations of the skills like the Cook X or the like spinning flax, stuff like that, I don't think there was an option to cook it manually, like if you want to go back and forth one at a time. And for all these activities that got the make 5, 10, or X option, I think it was actually slower with it being automated, slower per action for most activities. But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, if you're doing something for 100 hours, there's very few players where cooking one at a time will be more efficient than the Cook X option, just because the average player is not going to be focusing that hard for 100 hours straight. I mean, especially back in 2004, 2005, people, or more specifically, us kids, did not know what a tick was. I think realistically for every single player, it did become more XP per hour to have that make X option. And on the topic of make X, did you know that it was make X up until 2017, October 2017, that's when they added the make all option. I remember I was in the middle of my 200 mil cooking grind at the time. I think I was quite literally like almost exactly 100 mil XP on my main account, when they added the make all option. Like every single inventory, I did the cook X and then I manually had to type in 99. But this was the update where they added the make all option for a bunch of different activities. I think in RuneScape Classic, like really nothing at all was automated. Like even fishing and woodcutting, I'm pretty sure you would attempt to catch a fish and you'd have to re-click the fishing spot after every single attempt. And like nothing was AFK at all in Classic, I think. Very random cut, but I'm working on the thumbnail right now, and the emote looping that you can now do for I think every or almost every emote is very useful for making thumbnails. Back to the news post, we have these autocast changes. Autocast is no longer cleared when you don't have the level or runes to cast the selected spell. It will instead remain as your selected autocast, and once you regain the runes or level, it'll begin casting again. And you can now also select a spell to autocast whether or not you have the level or the runes available. Let me just grab out the Kodai, equip it, and select a spell. Wow. We got some more changes to Castle Wars, and I do want to point out that this is the next week. They did re-enable the plaudit crates, or the Castle Wars supply crates. They removed coins and runes, and they added untradeable arrows and bolts that you could only use in Castle Wars. You always get one plaudit for every Castle Wars game you play on an official world, regardless of if you win or lose it. It sounds like it's always one. Here's the rewards, blighted stuff. There's the Castle Wars arrows and bolts, which I guess they're untradeable. And there's also a 1 out of 11 chance to get 2 Castle Wars tickets, but you get 3 rolls per crate. Hey, we got an update on the music. They transitioned music tracks from 8 to 16-bit. I love the music in RuneScape so much. Even though I rarely play with it on, I still use a lot of music in my videos, and I really enjoy looking through music tracks and trying to find ones to add to my repertoire that I put in my videos. Big shout out to the audio team of RuneScape. They're very talented, and I appreciate them very much. Going through the history of RuneScape music tracks is also very interesting because almost every track in the game has been updated at least once, if not multiple times. There's a bunch of unlisted music tracks and unused music tracks. There's so many hidden jingles, there's removed music tracks. I mean, going through all the music in the game is almost like looking at a whole separate side of RuneScape history. They reduced the magic defense of these 4 demon monsters, Zami, Skatizo, Demonic Gorillas, and Serb, to make Demon Bane spells a bit more effective. They've removed the restriction that prevented Ironmen from gifting bonds. Ironmen can now use a bond on the recipient to offer it as a free gift like other characters can. I'm pretty sure for the longest time, if an Ironman got gifted a bond or you bought bonds on your Ironman for whatever reason, you can never get them off your account. That account would forever be stuck with them, but now you will be able to use them on other characters from an Ironman. Whoa, what? Added new top floor and bottom floor options to these places for faster navigation. What? We are in Lumbridge. Here's the staircase. Right click, climb up or top floor. Oh my gosh, bottom floor. And we are done with this game update. Next up is going to be April 15th. So this was about 2 weeks after they first announced Dragonwilds. It came out that quickly. When they first announced it, I thought it meant it was going to be out like 6 months or a year later, but no, it was just 2 weeks later. I did get a free copy of Dragonwilds from Jagex, and here's the requirements for it. So they recommend for a GPU a 2070 or the bare minimum a 1060. Now I tried to run it on the lowest graphic settings and it was still laggy for me. And even if it wasn't laggy, it looked pretty bad on the lowest graphic settings. I wouldn't want to play on that anyways, but I'm going to have to upgrade my PC if I'm going to want to play Dragonwilds because my GPU is a 1050 Ti. Cut me some slack, man. I just play RuneScape. I've never had a reason to upgrade PC parts before. Moving on to April 16th. Easter event. They added the Easter event, they made a few changes to World 45 Deadman, and then other changes as promised in the previous update. They did revert the Tool Leprechaun changes and the movement restrictions on Gardeners to how they were before. And not too much from this news post. One more thing I want to mention though is that the run energy drain of the bats in the Inferno are now blocked by prayer, which was already the case for their stat stealing effect. In June of 2021, that's when they changed the bats to no longer drain your combat stats if you're praying correctly against them, but they didn't change the run drain with that for some reason. Going back to the updates, April 23rd, we have Miscellaneous Mayhem from Pole 84. You'll no longer have a random chance to find nothing when you're searching the Tower of Life crates during the quest. I love little updates like this because I know it seems really unimportant, especially to the average player. You just go through the quest once, it makes it take a couple extra minutes during the one-time quest. But all these little updates, these really tiny things that they make to the game to improve it, it all adds up so that when new players join the game and they're playing through doing all the quests, the accumulation of hundreds of these micro changes should make the gameplay experience smoother for them. When you find a beginner clue and take it out of a bird's nest in a member's world, you will now get to keep the bird's nest because prior to this update, the nest would disappear. And on the topic of bird's nests, they will now auto queue when opening, which means you could open them all with a single click. And as someone that has been saving up bird's nests for at least a couple of months at this point, I can appreciate this update. We're going to test it out. I'm going to assume it's still going to be a lot slower than manually opening them, just like it was with planting and watering the plant pots. But let's try it out. We'll grab out like 10 bird seed nests. Let's see it in action. Oh my god, that is painfully slow. You will now be shown a did you know tip in the chat when you log in. You can customize the colors in the chat section in the settings menu or turn them off completely. For me, as someone who's played this game a lot, I think every single one of these did you know messages is like I want to reply to it so badly with like ironic exploding head emoji ×3 because it's like... To me, it's obvious, but I understand that for a portion of the player base, these tips are helpful for them. My favorite one of these helpful tip messages that I've seen is that you can note items that you farm by using them on the tool leprechaun. It's like that stereotypical tip that you can post, like every time I mention it in a video, or you can just post it on Reddit, and there's always going to be at least one person that replies to you saying, I've been playing RuneScape for 6 years, I can't believe I never knew that, I was using the herb sack, or I was banking them after every patch. Like no matter how many times you show it in a video, no matter how many times that specific fact is regurgitated, it seems like there's always someone who didn't know that. Tortured and demonic gorillas will no longer be aggressive once you've completed Monkey Madness 2, and will now swap prayers for every 70 damage taken instead of 50. And they've also removed the mechanic where demonics would switch their prayers after 6 successful attacks. I was about to run over to demonics, but I figured while I'm here at the Grand Tree, I may as well show you the top floor and bottom floor thing. I'm sure you could use menu entry swapper to swap the left click. Yes, you can make the left click be top floor, bottom floor if you wanted to. When you first enter the demonic gorilla cavern, I think this tile right where you enter was a safe spot, but as soon as you step out, they would aggro you. Now these are tortured gorillas, so they might still be aggressive. Let's see. No, they're not aggressive, so it's the tortured gorillas too. Maybe nothing in here is aggressive towards you anymore. It's funny seeing everyone else wearing gear and I'm not geared up at all, but this is so weird and so cool. I can just wander around here and none of them will be aggressive towards me. Something that would happen quite a lot would be if I was like standing under demonic for a couple extra seconds, or if I like wandered around the corner to pick up loot or something. If I was in the middle of a fight, it was not uncommon for another demonic to aggro onto me and I'd get PJ'd off the one I was already attacking, which is super annoying, but now that they're not aggressive, is not going to be a worry anymore. Like imagine you get PJ'd off your demonic and then someone else starts fighting the demonic that you were already fighting on your ironman, and then like a main account gets the Zenite that you should have gotten because you only got to do like 1/3 of the damage. Or another ironman starts fighting the demonic that you had already half killed, and now the ironman's not going to get the loot from that kill because it's going to get like the red no symbol on it because it's already been damaged, and now you're both pissed. It makes demonics a lot more chill too, because if you want to take a break to get up and use the bathroom or type a couple messages on Discord or switch to another YouTube video, there's no pressure or rush to hurry up and do that before the next demonic aggro's you. And the other part of the update where they now change their prayers after you do 70 damage instead of 50 damage is really nice, because if you're close to max combat stats, depending on your gear as well, it's not too uncommon to where you'll do 50 damage. So like you swap to your melee gear, you hit it once, and then you immediately have to swap back to your range gear because you hit a 50. But you know, you're generally going to have the Slayer Helm perk helping you, you're going to have the Arclight or Emberlight doing the extra damage as well. So like even a mid-game player might be able to hit 50s, or at the very least, is very extremely common to hit it twice and it swaps prayers. But with this change of them swapping prayers after 70 damage instead of 50, On average, you'll probably be able to do 3 hits before you have to do a gear switch instead of probably 2 hits on average like it was before. Players can now toggle the visibility of falling snow overlays in multiple locations. Let's go to Waterbirth Island. You can see what the falling snow looks like. We'll go into the settings, type snow, toggle it off, and now you get to see a non-snowy day on Waterbirth Island, but I'm gonna leave it on because it doesn't bother me. And the final thing from this news post may be worth mentioning is that they increased the size of the click boxes on the plank walk and roof balance obstacles in the Arty agility course. There's the plank walk. You can see the click box is bigger than before, or maybe you can't tell that. And then the roof balance click box, I think that's the second to last obstacle. But yeah, a couple obstacles are bigger, which is nice if you're trying to chill and not look at the screen. Bigger click boxes allows for more room for error or something. Next we have on April 29th, player support is changing 2025 roadmap. I know they've talked about this many times over the years, but this time, to me, it feels like it really is happening. They've got a roadmap with timeframes for 2025 and beyond. Some things have already improved, including chat spam reduction, the reporting outcomes like I showed earlier in this video, and single point of contact for player support requests. I'm not going to go over this whole thing of the future potential updates, but you can pause here and take a look at this roadmap if you want to. The one thing I'm looking forward to the most that I find very interesting is safely transfer display names between characters within your own Jagex account. But with that, let's go on to the next post. We've got poll 84, batch 2 of the changes. Let's see what we got in the change log. Oh, these are the sire changes. All of these are the sire changes. Feel free to read through all the specifics if you want to, but overall the fight should be a lot faster than before. I haven't tried sire since these changes. They did increase sire's HP by 25, but with all these other changes, I think overall the fight should be faster than before. I like this though, you'll be able to guarantee one-shot events. I'm at about 2.1k sire KC without the pet, and I don't dread sire tasks, like they're alright. I wouldn't say I specifically look forward to them though, but with these changes, I am looking forward to getting my next sire task. Moving on from the sire changes, there's now a new chambers option. You could set a full raid, which will be the same layout as a CM, but scaled like a regular raid. There's no challenge mode specific rewards or increased HP. It's just doing a regular raid with all the rooms in that same predictable order. On the raiding party board, there's the option for map layout. There's small, the default. There's large to add the extra rooms. And then there's full if you want to do a regular raid, but with the CM layouts. And if you do the regular mode raid with the full layout, because Tecton's gonna be the first room, that could be a good way to, I was going to say to farm onyxes, but at the very least, if you want to get that collection log slot filled out for the cut onyx in the collection log, that could be a good way to do it. They have changed Chinchampas. Unprotected chins will now behave like regular items on death. They'll go to your gravestone or death pile rather than running away and disappearing when you die. And they've also replaced the destroy option with the drop option so that you can actually drop chins on the ground now instead of essentially releasing them like you would before. Let's grab a chin out and see what it looks like when you drop it on the ground. That's so weird seeing it on the ground like that. It looks like the pet. It makes sense. I don't know what else I would have expected. Not that I would know exactly what the pet looks like though, because 40k red chins, no pet yet by the way. Chins were a very weird item for UIMs though, because normally UIMs would go die to Hispori or some boss to store their items there, but they couldn't bring their chins with them. So if a UIM goes and hunts thousands of chins and they want to re-gear to throw those chins or do any other activity, they could not bring those chins with them because they would be lost on death. What UIMs would do is they would pick out a table that would be fast for them to get to, but is out of sight from the average player. Some of the average player wouldn't just randomly happen to wander to. For example, if we go upstairs in the Varrock General Store, there's a table here. They would place their stack of chins on the table, then go back to Hispori, die, and come back and pick up their chins. And tables have a weird mechanic because items don't despawn with the normal 2-minute timer. Items stay on tables, I believe, for 10 minutes. However, they appear to other players after, 1 or 2 minutes. They'd place their chins on the table, rush over to Hispori, hurry up to die as fast as possible so they can make it back in time before someone else would pick their chins up. But after today's, or not today's change, but after that change is no longer a worry for UIMs. Or just in general, like if you're chinning at Kriara, for example, if you were to die, you would lose all your chins, but now you will not lose your chins. You'll now be able to reclaim them from your gravestone or death. Added an agility shortcut at the Varrock Castle Garden, allowing you to hop over the fence given you have level 35 agility and have completed Garden of Tranquility. There's the shortcut on the minimap, and I assume the reason for this is because there's a master clue step in this area. It's the Zamorak Godsword one, and this will be a much faster way to get there than having to run, well, maybe not much faster, but it's a faster way to get there than having to run the other way around the castle or run from the GE. The main hand and offhand variants of the Imkondo hammer can now be used on Intrana. I don't know if that was even worth mentioning, but very importantly, you can now bring the carrot costume hat onto Intrana. All right, that's it for this one. What do we have next? Oh, that's it for April. Okay, we're moving on to May. We're getting very close now. Let's see. May 1st, we have pull 84 stackable clues. This is the pull that is currently going on that I was talking about before. Assuming the question about stackable clues passes, which I have a feeling it will, there is going to be a cap of 5 clues, and this is how it's going to work. It's going to be a progressive unlock type of system where by default, everyone will have a base capacity of 2 clues per tier, but you can increase it up to 5. One way to increase it is by completing X amount of clues. You can see the different amounts. For each tier of clue, you'll increase the cap for that tier. You get +1 for this amount, and then +2 for that specific tier if you complete that amount of the relevant tier. So you have the initial 2, you get 2 more, so this brings you up to 4, and then if you defeat the Mimic, it adds +1 bonus slot across all tiers, and that's what brings you up to a cap of 5. And to answer the question about the Rogue's outfit, if you're pickpocketing clues, because they're going to be stackable, will that give you double clue scrolls from pickpocketing? The answer is no. The Rogue's outfit will not double clues. Next, we have more pull 84 and Yama prep. Isn't this like the third, at least third news post that has pull 84 stuff in it? That must have been a really big pull. Okay. Let's look at the changelog. You can now deal melee damage to Zora via halberd attacks. I tried 1 kill on stream a couple days ago, so I already have this footage that you're watching, but people were telling me that doing melee only with the Noxious Halberd and the Crystal Halberd for special attacks is more DPS than just camping the T-bow or just camping the Shadow. But if you have the T-bow and Shadow, they're telling me that's more DPS than camping melee. People were saying that the Chali spec carries really hard here, and that a lot of the people are getting the Grandmaster time without even trying hard to specifically go for it. Apparently, if you melee Zora for like 30 minutes or an hour, you'll eventually get some lucky Chali specs, and you'll get that 54-second Grandmaster speedrun combat achievement done. Now, this is the perfect use case for the Atlatl, because it's a ranged weapon, but it scales based on your melee strength bonus. And there's some awkward Zora phases where you can't hit Zora with the halberd due to the location of the poison clouds around Zora, and rather than standing around waiting, you could switch to the Atlatl for extra DPS. The only problem is that the only way to get darts for it is from Moon's Apparel, which doesn't matter for normal accounts because they could buy them off the GE, but it's pretty rough for ironmen. But with Varlamore Part 3 coming out, there's going to be a fletching minigame, and in that minigame, you'll be able to create the darts yourself. So that could be pretty huge for irons. In Giant's Foundry, if you perform the bonus action correctly, you'll now recover a portion of any missed quality if any was missing. That's really cool. If you don't already have it, I would highly recommend this plugin, Easy Giant's Foundry, before you even start doing Foundry. At the start, I'm going to purposely mess up the sword, so that way we can see it get repaired. For every sword you make at Foundry, you're going to get that sweet spot special perfect hit at least twice per sword. It's 3 for the, I think, the 2 highest tier swords, but for all the other swords, you still get it twice. Oh, there we go. That is a really nice update because, I mean, for me, even after spending so much time at Foundry, I do still occasionally mess up, and it feels really bad when that happens because you still have to go through making the rest of the sword, and there's nothing you can do about it. Or I guess you could like throw out the sword, but that would just be even more of a waste of supplies. The Easter event has been removed from the game. If we go down a bit, you can see bank interface feedback. They are working on updating how the bank interface looks, and if you want to give feedback, feel free to do so This is what it looks like. They've moved the potion storage up here. You see how the buttons look and the incinerator and stuff. You will now get a message indicating what size of raid layout you embark on when starting a Chambers of Xeric raid. I think a lot of people were switching it to full and forgetting to switch it back, or they had the full size regular raid layout thinking they were doing a CM, but they had forgotten to switch it back to CM. That could have been the complaints that led to this. And I think that's the last game update post. There are 2 more non-update posts though, but this is for the fletch. Oh yeah, I was talking about the fletching activity before. This is all about a future update. A lot of this stuff probably will end up changing, may have already changed, could possibly change again, so I don't want to get too deep into this stuff, but there's going to be some interesting rewards from the fletching minigame. For the atlatl darts, as of right now, again, subject to change, you'll need 83 fletching, a couple of items that I think is what you'll get from the minigame, it sounds like, and then feathers. And they're all going to be tradable. Besides for that, there's going to be a fletching knife, which is equipable and will speed up fletching actions by 1 tick compared to regular cutting logs. I have the before and after XP rates here. The bowstring spool will be spool that you can charge up with bowstring. So instead of doing 14 and 14 for stringing bows, you could, I think, do 1 and 27. And the final news post, this is the most recent one as of the time of recording this, is regarding Yama. Yama is coming out, like I said before, 1 to 2 days after I'm posting this video. It's coming out May 14th. And they're talking about the new contract system that's going to be a part of Yama, and they're answering a few questions. They're not spoiling everything, but I guess players had concerns. But yeah, we'll see what happens when Yama comes into the game within a couple days. I don't know if there's really much point speculating on this stuff because no one's been able to try it out except for the devs, and I'm sure if people have a problem, or if there's like a really big problem with the way these are, then Jagex will change them if that's what enough players want. Contracts are tradable agreements you can bring to Yama that will give you a more challenging fight. And there's going to be at least 7 variants of contracts. You'll be able to receive contracts on release, but you won't be able to actually use them until about a week and a half after release on Friday, May 23rd. It'll give players time to stock up on them in advance so that competitions for a world first aren't reliant on getting lucky and being one of the first players with a specific contract. And that extra week and a half will give them time to fix any issues or bugs with the core Yama fight. Oh man, big stretch. I've spent the last almost 2 full days now of my work time just going over all these news posts, and it feels really good to be all caught up to real time of what's been going on with the game over the last 3 months. As I always say, it really does help me comprehend and solidify information by reading it out loud and forcing myself to explain it to edit into a video format. And I really hope this video helps some of you out as well, between reading the news posts, showing off the changes in game, and adding in my own information. Feel free to let me know in the comments what your favorite change was, or your favorite new method that spawned out of these updates. This is one of my longest videos I've ever made, so if you're still here, thank you very much for watching. I guess you could have just skipped to the end as well, but there wouldn't really be a reason to do that since it's not a progress video. But either way, thank you for watching and being here at the end of the video. I really hope this helped you out in some way, or at the very least kept you entertained for almost an hour. So thank you so much and have a great day.